I'm Julie Alexandria.
And I'm Jennifer Mercedes.
Between the two of us, we have over 2 decades of experience working in professional sports.
We're telling the stories of women who are at the top of their game in sports and business.
Welcome
to the locker room.
Rachel Jacobson spent 21 years at the NBA. Almost a year to the date, she became one of the only women presidents, one of the only female presidents at a professional sports league, the Drone Racing League. Rachel has also earned numerous accolades, including being named to a 2020 Fortune's Most Powerful Women member list, 2020 Techstars Sports Accelerator Mentor, and a recipient of Sports Business Journal's 40 Under 40 Award. Rachel, congratulations on absolutely everything, and welcome to the locker room. Explain to us what your role is with the Drone Racing League and exactly what is the Drone Racing League for those who are not familiar.
So first, it's so great to be here, and thank you both for inviting me. This is definitely the highlight of my day. So let's talk drones, because finally my kids think I have the coolest job. So I have that cool mom award or plaque firmly on my wall these days. So what are we doing? I am the president of the league. We're a global sports and entertainment property. We're content creation, and technology is at the heart of everything that we do. So think about us as any other mainstream professional sport. We have the best athletes in the world who are our pilots, and they fly our racing drones that go 0 to 90 miles an hour with 1,000 stunning lights on every drone. And we fly around the most iconic locations. Think NBA arenas and football stadiums and palaces in Europe. So we are just high flying and kind of breaking all rules as it relates to everything on innovation and technology that we can do.
That's amazing. Now, you worked for 21 years at the NBA, and then the opportunity of a lifetime to become one of the only female presidents in the world of sports, and then the pandemic hits. How did you navigate taking on a new role with such limitations and being a mom of twins, like you were just telling us? I mean, talk to us.
It's definitely been an interesting transition. But for those that know me, I'm definitely a roll with the punches type girl. So I accepted the job with DRL literally my last day in the city in March when I said yes to this, and the world just fell apart that weekend. NBA season canceled, and just, from a global pandemic perspective, things just went into high gear in terms of putting everything in sports on pause. But I had to go into high gear because I was meeting my entire team around the world over Zoom. So not only am I building relationships and onboarding and getting up to speed, I'm running a company to make sure that we used whatever time and opportunities we had during such uncertainty to really put our heads down, get smarter about our fans, look at new areas of growth for our business, and come out of this in, a much better position. I like to talk about it. We all were home during the first part of the pandemic, cooking or ordering, and then some restaurants were able to reopen, but only outdoor seating. So I think about what we've done here at DRL, like those restaurants. We doubled down on the areas we could, not outdoor seating, but for us, it was esports and our sim racing. And then while we were racing, we were actually renovating everything on the inside of our business. When we thought about our fan base and all of these marketing channels that we could be igniting with our sport, getting into the betting space, and now the doors are wide open. So we've really taken the time for the benefit and kind of, like, to use another sport here, hockey stick growth, when we look at all of our metrics of our business. And now we're so fortunate to have learned so much in this past year as we plan for our 21, and beyond seasons as our kind of flight plan, not our roadmap. We talk in aerospace terms over here.
I love that. And I love that you consider, so do you consider yourself an esport?
So it's a great question. We're straddling both worlds. We're an esport and we're professional sport, which really puts us in a unique position. One of the things that we had to do during COVID, I hired DRL's first ever chief marketing officer. I had known Anne-Marie Giantusos for 10 years. We had not worked together. I called her and I said, I need you. Come do this with me. Anne-Marie started, when I was 3-4 months on board, and then I gave her a week to put out the most comprehensive marketing campaign we've ever put out. And really, to your question, Julie, it was about we are the new playing field of sports. And what that is it's really a hybrid. You straddle the virtual and the real. And again, that makes us very unique because we are able to tap into a much younger generation of sports fans that are just consuming sports different than just the traditional stick and ball sports.
Right. And it's funny because
those boxes.
Yeah, no, I love that. And it's interesting because esports is already coming into its renaissance. I started in esports 10 years ago when we were still holding competitions in ballrooms in the Dallas Hilton Anatole, and now they're selling out MSG. But it is very rare that you find an emerging market in sports. But here we have esports sort of laying the groundwork, and now we have the next generation, which I consider the drone racing league. Is there a precedent in the culture that you're looking to set or implement because you have this incredible opportunity with this sort of new category in the world of sports?
100%. One of the things when I took the job, as you've mentioned, is there are not many other women in this position. And I've always taken the opportunities that have been afforded to me throughout my career at the NBA. When I left the NBA, spending full time at an early stage company who was the market leader in investing in women and diverse groups. So I've always been around, making sure that there's diversity around the table and at organizations. So when I took the job, and I knew already that was inherent in this position as president, I also took a look at our roster of 12 male pilots. And when you talk about being able to change the game or really lead by example, on day one, I looked at what are we doing to bring girls and women into our sport. And it really starts at an early age with STEM programs. And I think about my own daughter at 11 years old, where the sciences, the math, technology, is she thinking about these careers and making sure there is that accessibility for young girls to grow up and be a drone pilot or build drones or work in these incredible technology industries? That didn't exist. So I want to start at an early level with our DRL Academy, and literally go up to the more senior levels when we think about having a professional women pilot who would compete against the men in our league. There's absolutely no reason that she is not out there training, and we can put not only the spotlight on our sport as someone that looks at leveling that playing field, but again, that leading by example, Julie, that you said.
What's so great about that is that something that we've always talked about is this giving people the opportunity and just giving them a chance. So by doing that, by creating the academy, that's what you're doing, right? You're giving them a chance and the opportunity to choose, hey, you know what? I might want to do that. But I would imagine that part of leading the DRL is to raise awareness and market the league and events. How do you incorporate media and content within that space?
So media and content is like the backbone of when I think about growing and building our fan base, because as we all know, you wake up every day with choices. What's on my Instagram feed? What's someone tweeting out? So we have to meet this population, whether it's Gen Z, millennials, kind of a multi-generational fan base where they're consuming content. So it's no longer you could just put your programming on a linear network. It's really about social and digital and that global footprint, our second largest market is China. So you better believe that I have broadcast deals and I'm on Weibo and all of the hot channels in those territories and countries that people can consume drone racing.
So how do you leverage brand partnerships within the league?
So we have an incredible base of partners. You know, I think about coming from a sport like the NBA, when 99.9% of the population, you say the NBA, they know what you're talking about. And this is a 5-year-old property. And when I look at what we've accomplished with the partners that we've had, it's incredible. I mean, it's nothing short of spectacular when you look at the type of innovative programming, building an autonomous robotic racing league with Lockheed Martin, working with DraftKings on the first aerial sport you can bet on. We did that in 51 days, from like, we want to bet on drones, getting approval, signing up different states, and then literally a live to air to bet show on NBC in January. 51 days, like start to finish there. So when you ask about partners, what's so interesting is there's the traditional sports sponsors, partners. When you think about the beverage category, the insurance category, where you typically see them in sports. But being here at the Drone Racing League, I get to wake up every day and talk to companies about edge computing and robotics and AI and autonomy. And again, that doesn't exist with so many other sports because it's not, you know, embedded in the fabric of their product. Where our partners at T-Mobile, they came to us when we were, you know, figuring out what are the key assets of this partnership. And we said, everyone talks about 5G. You know, everyone's trying to figure out, what does 5G mean? We're all, you know, on our phones, 5G, what does that mean? Is it faster? Do I hear my, you know, the person on the other end? And we said, we're going to build a real world case study. We're going to build a 5G drone that will fly over the 5G T-Mobile network. So those are the types of things, if you're a, you know, innovative marketer, you don't just want your name on a vanity sign in left field. You want those types of opportunities to really show off everything that you're doing to the right, whether it's the business community or it's a call to action with, you know, a certain demographic when you think about your fan base.
You are just firing on all cylinders. I love that you have taken into account everything from what we would consider, if we're talking about in baseball terms, the minor leagues. You have essentially set up the minor leagues for drone racing. I mean, that's incredible. And minor league academies that they have in the Dominican Republic for each of the 30 teams. And you've worked with the brand partnerships. I mean, girl, I hope that when you're done with this, that you become the commissioner of Major League Baseball, please. But one of the things that we hear so commonly, so often here on Locker Room Talk is that women in sports, they encounter a lot of roadblocks in that they start out in, say, PR or working in a front office of a league, and then they can only go so far. You have managed, you worked in the NBA for 21 years. You were successful those 21 years, and then you were able to capitalize and jump and ascend to be one of the only female presidents in sports, president of a league. So what do you attribute that tenacity, that resilience, that success to? Like, how did you do it?
I'm competitive, if that hasn't come through. I like to win first, and then we'll figure it out. You know, that's part of the game. I grew up as an athlete. You know, growing up, I played many different sports, and then academics was as important when I was undergrad. But essentially, my first job out of school was working at the NBA, and I was able to see David Stern and Adam Silver and Mark Tatum and Heidi Uberoth firsthand, how these incredible visionary leaders were game changers for sports, building global businesses, you know, leading by example, having empathy, you know, when you think about so many things outside of the sports world, when you're running an organization. So from such an early age, I was surrounded by these incredible role models. But I also took into account what I didn't like in leadership. And we've all had those managers or bosses that you didn't agree with. And if they would have just empowered you in these areas or done things differently, you know, I parked that in the back of my mind too, because I didn't want to be one of those bosses. I wanted to be the manager everyone wanted to work for. And they knew I not only had their back, I was the loudest one in the boardroom fighting for their career success, to give them these opportunities that maybe weren't afforded to them. Because when you talk about, you know, not just women in sports, is you need that advisor network. You know, I tell people, you have to start networking. You know, my twins at 11 years old, it's not quite networking at 11, but understanding that you need to have these relationships to help accelerate your path. You want people pushing you forward. And frankly, you want people that have higher expectations of you than you even have of yourself. And I found myself in those situations where I already had the ambition and the drive, but then you like pour on top of that someone like a David Stern who says, we're going to put you in sales. What sales? Like for me, sales was, you know, people selling off a piece of paper, asking for a lot of money. There was no sophistication there at the time. And I really looked at it so different. He said, you're smart. You've got that fire in the belly. You can understand what's important to companies, and you could be much more consultative about their business, where the companies I was partnering with, they would tell David, Rachel's our number one shareholder. You know, I felt like I had equity in the company because I had, you know, done the research and the homework. And that's why they ultimately would do partnerships, because they knew I had their best interests at heart.
That's amazing. I think we've all said it here. We've all had men in the industry, right, who have supported us and who have pushed us. And so that's a lot of what we need in every single industry, is men who are on our side and continue to open those doors as well as in any way that they can. But the Drone Racing League is not just a viewer experience. There's also a play along aspect to it, including streaming, downloading to game consoles. Do you think that this is the future of where sports is going?
Definitely. And that's not just me being bullish on the business I'm running right now. I consume everything through my children's lens. Mm-hmm. You know, so when I got here, they had our DRL sim, which is our most true to life, learn how to fly a drone on the Steam platform. Well, for someone who's somewhat of a techie now, I don't know, my team tells me, you know, yes, you're a techie, you're running a technology company. But when I started out, did I know everything about how to build our drones? I didn't need to. But when they said that the only platform we were on was Steam, I felt like we were handicapping ourselves because so much of the population was on Xbox and PlayStation. And it goes back to that accessibility where if you don't have one of those consoles, you aren't then learning or engaging with our sport at a young age as a gateway to flying for us. Because unlike NBA 2K or Madden in the NFL, my kids could play all day long, but they can't walk outside and get drafted in any of those leagues. If you put in the time on our DRL sim, you absolutely can leave your house, go outside, and be able and equipped to fly a drone. And frankly, you can compete for a spot to race in our championship season. So we don't have the same limitations as some of the other sports. You can absolutely put the time in on those platforms. And that's what we see as the growth and the gateway of we are aspirational, because if you put the time in, you have that ability to then go out and fly drones.
That's awesome.
My daughter still will be drafted, by the way, for the WNBA. Her first #1 draft pick in the WNBA. And then, she wants to be an NBA commentator. So small goals around here.
Love it. I love it. Encourage them. Go all the way. Lastly, and we'll wrap after this, but I'm interested to know, you are in this incredible position where so many young women and women working in sports can look up to you and see a prime example of what I consider success within the industry. What example as a female leader, as a trailblazer, are you looking to set?
Well, thank you for that opportunity to answer that question, because I'm always looking to be on pedestals to talk about this. But if you've heard nothing else or taken, anything away from this, is just you shouldn't put any limitation on your ambitions, and, go after what you want, support each other. I've always felt that high tide raises all boats. And so much of that is for women. When you talk about, I've had incredible male support, I would say, growing up when I was at the NBA, but it's the women that need to help other women to really accelerate the path forward. Madeleine Albright, we honored her when I was at the NBA for a WNBA event. And she stood in front of 300 people, and it's a quote that she said before. And she talked about women helping other women. And she said, literally, in how she does very directly, there's Madeleine, there's a place in hell for women that don't help other women. And when I look back at opportunities in my career where I've sought out that support and maybe did not get it, I've looked to then help 3 more people when I wasn't helped in that situation to pay it forward. Mm-hmm. And I think that's, again, for me, it's very genuine because I'm passionate about this, of just making sure that no one feels held back by any opportunity that they go out. And that's why, whether it's a LinkedIn request or something else that I get, we're interested in what you're doing. We're inspired by what that is. I always tell my team, we have to make the time for that. Because it's so important, and everyone's been there in their career where they, look for opportunities. And if you have so many doors shut on you, then, you're going to give up. So we're the open door group over here.
I love all of that. No limitations on your ambitions. I'm going to put that on a t-shirt.
Well, I'm going to buy that when you put that on the t-shirt.
There you go. Oh, there is always enough room at the table. Rachel Jacobson, thank you so, so much for your time and for joining us and for those gold coins. Much appreciated and always wonderful. And we hope that you'll keep this conversation going with us, because we loved having you here today.
Thank you guys so much for having me too. Love what you're both doing. And, we're committed to support in whatever way possible.
Thank you so much.
I love, to be honest, that Serena Williams has set a body image standard and a confidence standard. I mean, she is a superstar and has been at the top of her game